Loving God, may we love you with all our hearts, all our soul, all our mind, and all our strength. And may we love our neighbour as ourselves. Amen. When we first came to Canada over 20 years ago, we moved into our new house and went grocery shopping. At that time, Safeway was the only grocery store at our local mall, so we went there. And over the years, it's been our store of choice, mainly because of the convenience and familiarity. In the last few years, a whole bunch of high rises were built in the area with a huge new Save on Foods too. And we always expected Safeway to close. But recently they've been doing major renos inside and out. It has to be said, for the first time in over 20 years. This is all fantastic, as we know it must be staying. However, what isn't great is that someone decided it was time to move everything around. Not in the way that it usually happens, gradually, a little bit here, a little bit there. But whole departments have moved from there to here and from here to there. This is a problem for shoppers like me, who are creatures of habit and keep looking for stuff in the wrong place. Yesterday, when we tried to get our walk in early and in air conditioning, I nearly asked a member of staff if she was able to find everything, because we certainly couldn't. Throughout Mark's Gospel, Jesus often encounters large crowds and sometimes seeks respite from them. And yet, time after time again, as in today's Gospel passage, he is back in the midst of people. We hear in this passage of two healings. One account occurs in the middle of the other, and some commentators suggest dealing with them separately. So that's our plan. So first, the woman suffering from hemorrhages. We are told for 12 years. In other words, a long time. She has seen many doctors, spending all the money that she had, and there's no improvement. In fact, her condition had deteriorated. This unnamed woman had heard of Jesus and believed if she could just touch his cloak, she would be healed. And as she touched Jesus, immediately she knew she was healed. But Jesus also knew that someone had touched him and asked the disciples who had done so. This seems such an odd request when you're surrounded by a crowd. The woman approached with fear and trembling, fell on her feet and told her his story. Jesus used words which express the entirety of the story. Daughter, your faith has made you well. The narrative that surrounds this episode begins with a man called Jairus, a leader at the local synagogue. He falls at the feet of Jesus and asks him to come and lay hands on his daughter, whom we hear is at the point of death. It was as Jesus was going to this man's house that he encountered the woman in the previous narrative. And after he'd healed the woman, a group of people came from Jairus' house to tell Jesus that his daughter had died. But Jesus at once says, "Do not fear, only believe." He then led the way with just his closest disciples, Peter, James, and John, and arriving at the house, found people already mourning. But he tells them that the girl is just sleeping, but he's not taken seriously. Jesus goes in with the father and mother to see the child and so told her to get up, speaking the words, Talitha kum, meaning, little one, get up. And like the woman in the other encounter, she is immediately healed. And we hear she is 12 years old. Those present were amazed, but Jesus told them not to tell anyone what had happened. The woman who suffered from hemorrhages had suffered much more than just a challenging physical illness. She would have been regarded as unclean and therefore kept at a distance from the community, including the synagogue, as well as her family. Any form of normal life would not have been possible. She would have been regarded in the same way as anyone suffering from leprosy, an outcast from society. Yet the woman, as other people of faith in the Gospels, clearly had not given up hope. She heard of Jesus' teaching and healing and came to believe he could make her well. Yet, by touching a rabbi or teacher, she was again breaking the cultural norms of the day. She likely expected to be rebuked by Jesus. However, nothing is further from his mind. He proclaims to her, the disciples, and anyone else present that her faith has made her well. It's hard to overestimate what this healing would have meant to this woman. Her body was healed. She would have been restored to her family and faith community. And she also became part of the community of Jesus too. This woman approaches Jesus twice, once to seek healing, once to make known what Jesus has done for her. Both times she demonstrates huge courage and faith. Jairus too was a man of faith. In spite of the serious condition of his daughter, he believed, as the woman did, that Jesus could heal his beloved child. And when the news comes of the girl's death, Jesus is not distracted. And as he said to the disciples in the last week's boat journey in the storm, do not be afraid. Jairus then continues with Jesus to his home, and going into the room where the woman was, with his close disciples and her parents, Jesus heals the girl on the basis of the faith of her father. Here then are two extraordinary examples of faithfulness. Both Jairus and the unknown woman know their need of Jesus and are not afraid, as it were, to ask. In our own lives, we often know our particular needs, but aren't always ready to ask. We should be encouraged and inspired by these two faithful people, one concerned for themselves, the other for his daughter. Perhaps we should be clearer with God in terms of what we require. Perhaps we should be more faithful in our expectations. May we continue to love the God who first loved us with all our hearts, mind, soul, strength. And may we love one another as well as ourselves. Amen.